call it the stupidity of the American voter. The American voter is too stupid to understand the difference. Basic exploitation of the lack of economic understanding of the American voter.
Oh yeah, he called Americans stupid, and then was caught on camera admitting the Obama administration was misleading while selling Obamacare to the public just to make sure that it passed. Well, next week, economist Jonathan Gruber, a major advisor in drafting the health care law, is going to have to testify in front of the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee. Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan sits on that committee, and I spoke to him earlier. Congressman, this week, Jonathan Gruber is going to be testifying before the House Oversight and Reform Committee. This guy has repeatedly said the American people are stupid, and that's why they were lied to regarding Obamacare. Were you shocked when you heard from his own mouth these kind of statements?
Yeah, and it's why we want to bring him in front of a congressional committee and ask him some questions. I mean, Governor, think about it. He used taxpayer dollars to deceive taxpayers, and then once Obamacare became law, he made fun of them. So if ever there was an individual who needs to come in front of a congressional committee and answer members of Congress's questions, this is the guy.
I think everybody would agree with it, but what can you do? What powers do you have when he comes before your committee? I know you can ask him questions, but is there any recourse?
Well, part of what this is continuing to show how bad this law is and the deception that was used to pass it. I mean, I always remind people, remember all the false statements we have heard regarding Obamacare when they were trying to get it passed. If you like your plan, you can keep it. If you like your doctor, you can keep him. Premiums are going to go down. The web is going to work. The website's secure. So this is just a continuing pattern of these guys trying to deceive the American people. And frankly, the gig is up. Americans know this law doesn't work. They know that they were deceived when it was passed. And now what we got to do is continue to put pressure on this so ultimately, and I know this is a ways off, but ultimately if we get a new president, we can get rid of this law altogether and do what needs to be done in health care. And
Congressman, even some Democrats have owned up to the fact that this was a big mistake. Most notably and shockingly, Chuck Schumer, just before Thanksgiving, coming out and publicly saying that this was a bad political move and that hadn't worked out at all like they wanted. Are Democrats beginning to fall off the wagon themselves?
Well, I mean, it was Chuck Schumer's comments, we all heard those, but no, they're still, I mean, and some understand maybe they should have done things differently. Obviously, after the last election, they probably should have. But they're still committed to this law because they believe in big government. So we got to continue to show why it's bad for American people, why it hurts families, and why we need to get rid of it.
So when we watch these hearings this week, and I think a lot of Americans are going to want to see Jonathan Gruber squirm in his chair, what kind of questions can we expect that are going to be posed to him in the hearings?
Well, each member will have their set of questions, what they want to try to get across and what they want to get from Mr. Gruber. And we have Ms. Tavenner, the head of CMS, there as well. What I do know is this. He was called the key player. He was called the architect by the Washington Post of both Romneycare and Obamacare. He went to the White House 21 times. He himself said he was in the Oval Office with the president discussing Obamacare. All that took place, and yet now Nancy Pelosi says, just some advisor. The president says, I don't know who this guy really is, just some advisor. I mean, it's amazing how they used him to help pass the law, and now they're trying to distance themselves so much from this individual. So I'm sure there'll be some questions along those lines as well.
Well, if he's the architect, I'd say the bridge is falling down. It's going to be interesting to watch. Congressman, thanks for being here. We look forward to the hearings this week.